Hello, lovely people of the internet. If you are planning on doing the 75 hard challenge this year, you have come to the right place. I'm going to be giving you my best tips and tricks as someone who completed this challenge last year in 2025, and I would say that I learned a lot. So jumping right into it, I'm going to assume that you know what this challenge is, that you've heard of it before, that you've seen all the gym bros advertising it on TikTok if you have clicked on this video, but we're just going to briefly go over the rules anyway. So with 75 hard, the requirements are, and you can switch these up, it's based on personal preference. So if there's anything that you feel like is not going to work for you, that's fine. You get to create your own challenge. It is your life. So if you don't want to do the diet portion, or if you don't want to take the photos, that's good. But anyway, the official rules, according to the dude that created this challenge, I'll put his name here because I don't recall it at the moment, is that you drink a gallon of water per day. Every day you read 10 pages of a nonfiction book. You complete 2 45-minute workouts, one outside and one inside. These can be any kind of physical activity, any kind of exercise, movement, whatever that means for you. You do a diet of some sort, again, whatever fits your lifestyle. And then the last requirement is that you take progress photos. Some people do these daily. I personally don't like to have a lot of extra photos of me just sitting around on my phone, and so I did a progress photo every Sunday. Now, the first thing that I feel like I want to remind you of is that this is going to be difficult, okay? It's a challenge for a reason. It's going to be hard. And so initially, I would anticipate that you're going to go in with high hopes. We all do. But it's important to understand the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So intrinsic motivation is motivation that comes from within. It's your own personal desire to accomplish something because you feel like you're going to get a real sense of satisfaction out of it. And intrinsic motivation is probably going to be very strong. You're going to be riding high for the first few weeks of this challenge. Maybe even the first week if you're someone that tends to pick up a lot of projects or a lot of hobbies and then just kind of, like, you're obsessed for a little while and then they just kind of fall to the wayside. So you're going to need to anticipate that at some point there's going to be a peak, and then that dopamine you get from completing each day of challenges successfully, or each day's task successfully, is kind of going to dwindle as you get used to it and as your body gets fatigued. And so you're going to want to have a backup source of motivation in place, likely external motivation, so that when you no longer feel that excitement anymore, you have, let's say, an accountability partner who's like, hey, you said you were doing this challenge for 75 days. Have you gone on your run today? Maybe you even want to complete this challenge with your spouse or with a friend. Or another source of external motivation is a reward. And I like this idea. This is one that I did. So the idea of this, pretty simple. You're like, if I'm able to complete this challenge successfully, at the end of my 75 days, I'm gonna have a spa day, or I'm gonna go shopping. I'm gonna give myself a budget at, like, for $100 at Ulta or maybe Barnes and Nobles if you're a reader. I personally went and just bought some new books because I love to read, so that's what I did. It could be you're gonna make a massive chocolate cake, put 75 candles on it for each day that you successfully completed this challenge. So when you have those moments where you're like really not feeling like waking up and getting your workout in, you just think about what your reward is going to be, or what it's going to feel like when you're able to tell your family and friends, like, yeah, I completed that. It was so awesome. You need to have some kind of selfish reason, honestly, to be able to make this happen. Because I promise you, even if you're a very disciplined person, there is a point at which you start to wonder what the heck you're doing. Okay, because this challenge is 75 days. It's like 2.5 months. My math could be off, but there's going to be a point where your motivation dips, I promise. So just take my word on it and come up with a backup plan. And on a similar note, you don't want to be suffering, so find a way to make this fun. Okay, so a lot of people, I've seen people do sticky note walls with 75 sticky notes, and they peel a sticky note off for every day where they've successfully completed their tasks. I personally did like a bullet journal spread where I had 75 boxes and I would color them in, the color based on my mood, how I was feeling that day for every day that I completed the tasks. Find a way to make it fun. If you even want to reward yourself every 25 days, so like every third of the challenge that you've completed, do what you gotta do. I don't think you should ever be feeling any kind of guilt for if you are struggling to feel like excited about doing this, okay? Because if you're already an Olympic athlete, what are you doing watching my video? Like, go, I don't know, go run a marathon, girl. I think you have to keep in mind that the whole point of this challenge is to build discipline and consistency and prove to yourself that you can do this, to kind of erase all of those previous years of messages of like, I'm lazy, I'm unathletic, whatever it might be that you had been telling yourself prior to wanting to make a change in your life. Get rid of it. You're going to replace it with that confidence that comes from conquering and tackling difficult tasks. Okay, now let's move on to some of the more practical tips, because I've been sounding like Oprah for the past minute and a half. One of my best tips that I can give is that if you set up a routine, so you're going to sleep, waking up, doing your workouts at the same time every day, that's going to help you to keep track of all your tasks, even if you're not like writing them down and checking them off, so that you're not just kind of like scrambling through your day trying to remember like, oh, did I drink my water already? It's like, for example, something that I did. I was on a pretty rigid schedule. I had this like early morning cleaning job at my university, and so I was waking up at 4 a.m. every morning. You do not need to do that, but it did kind of help that I was waking up at the same time every day, getting out of my first job at the same time, and then I'd do my first workout. I'd go to work at my second job. Okay, your girl was crazy. Our schedule was super fun, and then I would do my second workout after that. And I knew that when I got home from that second workout every single day, that's when I was going to read the 10 pages of my book. So I would definitely recommend being on a routine. I know the challenge feels rigid enough as it is. Keeping on the same schedule is going to help you to associate tasks with a certain time of the day, so that you're not going to forget something simple like your 10 pages and be like, oh, I ruined the whole challenge and now I have to give up or start all over again. You don't want that to happen to you. For the reading portion, you need to pick a book that you're actually excited about reading, or that you could convince yourself to be excited about reading if you're not a reader. Okay, you don't have to pick up Atomic Habits just because it's really trendy. You're not going to get as much out of that. So look for something, yes, it's supposed to be nonfiction, but if that doesn't work for you, fiction, fine, whatever. This is your life, okay? But you want to be excited to read what you're reading, or what is the point? You need to be getting some kind of value out of it. Now, for the physical portion, this is very personal, so I'm not going to tell you what workouts to do or how to eat. Your diet is going to be completely up to you based on whatever your physical fitness goals are. But one thing I will say is you don't want to sabotage yourself by going into this with too many fitness goals in mind, because some of them can be contradictory. So for example, something that I did, I don't want to say wrong, but it wasn't necessarily optimal for me, is I wanted to lose fat and eat like super healthily, restrict my calories, and build muscle. Okay, so for me personally, I was doing no processed food, no fast food, trying to get in as much protein and as many fruits and vegetables as possible. But I was keeping myself at a super strict calorie deficit, and I was using MyFitnessPal religiously. Nothing wrong with MyFitnessPal, but to track every, calorie that I was taking in. And then I was like, I'm working out twice a day. I'm doing weight training 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week when I wasn't doing Pilates on Sunday. Why am I not building muscle? Why am I not seeing results and increasing in weight? Well, honestly, guys, I wasn't, for my personal height and weight, I wasn't taking in enough calories to sustain building muscle. And so those two goals, they were not working in tandem. I was working out so much that I was getting too tired, eliminating too much of that fuel that I was taking in as food. So you don't want to underfuel. It's okay, it's perfectly okay to have nutritional goals, but you kind of want to have the mindset of sticking to a specific goal. I would pick one or two, whether it's fat loss, whether it's building endurance with cardio, whether it is to reset your gut microbiome by taking in more probiotics. I mean, maybe you're just trying to build the habit of daily movement in the first place. You want to pick that goal, and then when you're setting up whatever diet you want to follow for 75 days straight, just think of it as fueling yourself to be able to reach that physical goal. You don't want to have that avoidance mindset. Instead, just thinking like, this is what I am eating, this is what I am taking in, and it's going to fuel me to accomplish my physical goal. Additionally, one thing that I would say, as far as like your 2 workouts each day, it can be any kind of movement, I'm not judging, but I wouldn't do all weight training or all cardio, because you're either going to be super sore or you are going to be just absolutely depleted. If you were, let's say, running twice a day, it's going to deplete all of your calories. That's fine if that is what you want to do, but I think that a balance is probably a better idea. You're not exactly having rest days with 75 hard, but for example, for me, in the past, I hadn't been working out on Sundays. That's the Christian day of rest. And so what I did, I noticed, especially by day like 50 of this challenge, I was getting super physically fatigued. That's natural, that's going to happen. And so even though I wasn't having like rest days where I wasn't working out, I did, instead of weight training on Sundays and a run, I would do Pilates as my indoor exercise, which is just a little bit easier and calmer for me. And then I would do a nice walk, a nice 45-minute outdoor walk in the afternoon instead of running every single day, because I remember my heels were killing me. This is not supposed to be military boot camp. The goal is to become more disciplined, not to become a Navy SEAL. It's not supposed to be sustainable long term, but it's kind of building patterns that you could work with throughout your life. And then with food as well, in hindsight, it would have been helpful if I'd done meal prepping and just set out, all my meals for the week instead of just haphazard, grabbing carrots from the fridge constantly to snack, making more protein pasta. It would have been helpful if I had not just been scrambling for meals and then, let me make sure that this fits my requirements. Would recommend checking out. There's lots of great meal prep ideas, recipes for whatever, keto or high protein, or if you're doing like a RFK Jr., Maha, no artificial seed oil, sugar, there are videos with recipes for everything that can be made in bulk, 3 or 4 days at a time, maybe even a week at a time. And it will save you the hassle of trying to rack your brain and figure out, can I eat this? Can I not? Just trust me on this one. Also, I'm assuming you're an adult, totally okay if you're not. Don't go shopping when you're hungry, okay? You know how to avoid temptation when it comes to those things that you may or may not be cutting out. Additionally, if you're doing no dessert, there are tons of healthy dessert recipes on the internet, okay? So it is time to put those Pinterest archives and those favorited or saved reels that you've never looked at before to use. I personally loved making like Greek yogurt, sugar-free pudding combinations, okay? I had a lot of fun with like the fake no-bake cheesecake using puddings and Greek yogurt. So that's one that I would recommend. Chop up some strawberries and add those to it. Add some zero sugar whipped topping, even better. Now, my absolute least favorite part of this challenge was not even the running every day. I'm not a runner. I previously hadn't been for several years. It was the water. A gallon of water is a surprisingly excess amount of water to be drinking every day, in my opinion. I thought it was too much, and I would probably never do it again. Now, it is good to build a habit of drinking a lot of water. I tend to underhydrate, but even so, I just hated it, okay? Like, I was at work and I felt like I was just chugging and chugging water trying to get it all in the day. So my recommendation would be to get your water in as early in the day as possible so that you're not chugging it at 10 p.m. and then having to get up 7 different times throughout the night, which is going to disrupt your sleep, which is going to make the next day even harder and even more exhausting. Now, what I will say is that I did count sugar-free liquid IV as water. I'm too much of a diva to be drinking just straight H2O all of the time with no exceptions. Who's gonna know if it's not a gallon? Who's gonna know if you're doing half a gallon per day instead? That's still a lot of water. You're gonna be so hydrated that your veins are gonna be popping out of your feet. Okay, that's something to be warned about that you may see happen. Just saying. So my last tip, or the last thing that I would like to share with you, is just gonna be that unless you are living in a community full of Pilates moms, yoga fanatics, David Goggins-esque individuals, unless all of your friends are just completely like-minded zombies, you're gonna have haters. I mean, that sounds dramatic, but there are gonna be people that are like, for 2.5 months straight, what are you doing? What do you mean you can't go get ice cream with us? What do you mean you can't have a drink on the weekends? Like, why are you getting up at 5 a.m. every day to jog? You've never done that before. There's gonna be people that are gonna say that what you're doing is stupid, pointless, or excessive. Nothing you can do about that. Everyone is gonna have their opinions, but if you have a reason for it, that's reason enough. So just ignore them. All right, that is all I can think of to share with you today. If I think of anything else, I might put it in the comments or in the description. Hopefully I've not scared you off, scared you away from doing this challenge. I probably have. I could have shared even more horror stories about the blisters on my feet from all those outdoor runs. There are pros and cons to every decision you will make in this life. I just feel that you needed a warning about what this is gonna look like, but also, if this is something you're planning on doing this year, you have got this. It's gonna be great. You can do it. Vaya con Dios. Have a great day. Bye. Oh, and consider liking and subscribing.